Well, Mr. Praveen Kumar, welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this, bro.
Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me to your podcast.
I
Been
know
listening
it's
to some of your podcasts. I've been hearing a lot about your podcast, so I'm glad to be here.
man. Thank you. I think we chat, so this feels a bit weird doing a official Praveen Kumar introduction,
Formal.
but man, it's so interesting because we've been talking about various aspects of our working life and also life from so many years now. We've been in touch with through comedy, but I think now it's beyond comedy. Our conversations extend. But I remember when I started this as the Baby Bed podcast, right? You kept kind of encouraging me, saying, "Don't worry about what's going on around you, just do it." That was in 2019, and then it led to sort of the Spotify life gone wrong thing. But I just enjoy talking to you a lot, and I figured your story is really, really cool to share with people for various reasons. Um, because from you talk about it in your shows, from a small town to a bigger city, and from also a small town to an educational sort of journey to Bits Pilani. So we'll cover all of that, but just to start with, you're one guy who constantly is working on stand up, and through the lockdown you kind of went down the virtual comedy
Yes.
path with online shows. So how was first of all, how was the lockdown? um, was it creative? Because you're someone who just keeps sort of trying different things. So how was it from that point of view?
Okay. Lockdown was both good and bad for me.
Mm.
Bad in the sense there were no live shows, as you know. There were live shows were not happening, and you know, 2019 was amazing for me in the sense there were a lot of travel, a lot of places I went and
Mm.
performed, and that was missing. I was not
Yeah.
able to meet my neighbors also, right? So
Mm.
it was that bad in 2020. That
Yeah.
is about bad. But good thing is, two, three good things happened. One is still we were able to do virtual shows,
Mm.
right? Unlike other art forms where they were not even able to do any online show. When we were fortunate enough to do live shows, and I was able to do shows for India as well as for other countries, sitting in my living room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Sort of like this podcast kind of thing where you could
Yeah,
reach out to people sitting from, without the logistical nightmare of traveling,
exactly.
coordinating international shows. So yeah, but that's, I think, one of the flips which came with this lockdown is that people were like, okay, you know what, we'll compromise on quality of production, but we'll at least get to hear someone's perspective in a lockdown like this.
Exactly. Plus, moreover, if everybody is sitting in the lockdown, they were also
Mm.
bored. They
Correct.
also want some form of entertainment, but sitting at home only.
Mm.
So we were able to provide that entertainment sitting from home.
So
So
just on that point, because I've done a couple of these open, actually just one open mic early on in the lockdown, just to check out whether it's something I can even do. And immediately I realized, no way, I can't do this when three people are on mute. But of course, I
yeah,
did the corporate shows online, which would help a little bit with the revenue.
correct.
But um, I want to ask you two things on that. One is, did you enjoy it? And secondly, did the people enjoy it? And were they more forgiving because they knew that, okay, it's a virtual platform kind of thing?
Okay, I enjoyed because I was able to do it,
At least you were
right?
doing it, right?
At least instead of simply sitting at home and doing
Mm.
nothing, at
Yeah.
least I would say this came close to 60% of a live show experience.
No, that's pretty
If
good.
if they kept their video on audio on. That is
Right.
the big task for the host before he comes on the mic. He has after he comes on the mic, he has to say, "Please switch on the video. Please switch on the mic." So at least
Mm.
we can create a little bit of that kind of an experience, live show experience. Even though if we cannot do 100%, we'll try to do at least 50-60% of the live show experience. But
Yeah.
only if you can switch it on or off.
Right.
But luckily for me, people are able to cast it on the TV. So entire
Mm.
family will sit, watch in a huge TV with the entire family. That's a good thing for me, right?
Right.
And the ticket price also are affordable. Like I priced uh, full family equivalent to a live show single ticket.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's
But you can't really
500
control
rupees.
that, right? If a person gets access, then they can call whoever they want.
Correct. They can call,
Yeah.
and some of them had a huge party. Some one window, there were about 25 people sitting in a house. They were having a get together,
Oh,
and they
okay.
were watching my show. So
Hmm.
I got 25 times lesser money, but
Yeah,
still
yeah, yeah.
but
I mean,
still
but
it
you
was
can't
quite
really,
good.
yeah, you can't
Yeah,
really be too. sort of strict on that front, right?
Correct. We don't have control over it. So
Mm.
we can just say, but it's okay for me that 25 people enjoyed. That's more
Yeah, yeah,
important for me than not paying. And at least I was able to do that. And if they keep their video on or audio on, I think
yeah.
that will help the performer. So we have to educate them because it's not their fault. Because from morning till evening they'll be in the audio office call,
And
and most
they
of the time they'll
constantly
be on
be, can
mute.
you mute yourself? Can you mute yourself?
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so we are here. We are asking them to unmute themselves. So
yeah, yeah,
it's not their fault. We just have to educate them and tell them why we are doing it, and
yeah,
then some of them will switch it on. So that way, the performance, that feeling was good. And other
yeah.
thing, what is good about the lockdown was I was able to do slightly something more than stand-up comedy. Like I started doing podcast. Sorry, I started doing podcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You sent me that idea and the plan you
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
that is one which I'm yet to release. And I
Mm.
started writing a book, which I
Oh,
never thought I would.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
I
it's one of
started,
those things you
just
don't sort
started.
of consider when you're doing, and I think that's one thing I want to talk about, right? Is
Mm,
it's sort of what you're saying kind of strikes chord with me, is
mm,
because I didn't do as many live shows when it comes to ticketed online shows. It was more of the corporate talks, etc. But it sort of pushed me into thinking differently when it comes to expressing myself. So
mm.
fortunately, as you know, like Life Gone Wrong, the podcast happened in 2020, because 2019, unlike you, for me, it was it kind of between things. So I had left a radio show and I didn't really have any sort of stand up gigs coming my way. I wasn't really sort of touring or doing any shows traveling. But then I did the recorded special in early 2020, and then this lockdown happened. Then I was like forced to kind of say, oh, what am I supposed to do with myself now? And then as a result, life gone wrong. Then this year, the SoapyRao show kind of thing. So when I think of conventional stand up just before the lockdown, that's 2020 Feb, I sometimes freak out. I'm like, oh my God, am I not working on my material? Am I not working on my comedic skills? But at the same time, I don't know if you felt this, where I
Mm.
was, because I was forced to think differently and have this sense of uncertainty looming, it's kind of looming over your situation. I'm not afraid of what I let go at the end of 2020. Sorry, at the beginning of 2020. You know what I mean? Like that way of how things were done typically, where you would do open mics, regular bar shows, pub shows, travel. So when I think of it in that framework, I freak out, but I don't anymore. Does that make any sense?
Yes, yes. See, first goal of 2020 was to survive,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then do these kind of a show. So, yeah,
correct.
what you said make total sense. Yes.
I mean, you're not gripping onto that because I think we got so caught up after doing it. I think you and I kind of started out at the same time. 2009 is when we technically, I mean, I think you did something in college, but we got on stage at the same time through the amateur nights and the open mics. And it's sort of been similar yet different trajectories in the comedy sort of space, right? Because I think I want you to take people through that. Um, you were doing stand up for almost 7 8 years before you took that leap of faith into doing purely Tamil, and I mean, of course, English as well. So how was? Let's go back there, and
Yeah.
I think before I met you in 2009, um, how was your sort of experience growing up in the town of Kanchipuram, right? Which is a small, for people who don't know, which is a relatively small yet well populated town. Like every town in India is well populated. There's no doubt about that. But how was that growing up for you with that environment? Like, was it? Yeah, maybe you can just talk us through that.
Yeah, see, growing up in Kanchipuram was so much fun because
Mm.
we didn't have a scale of comparing, right?
Right,
We
right,
didn't know how the kids in big cities were.
right,
All we knew was we had different schools in Kanchipuram. We compare ourselves with the different school students of Kanchipuram. So we had a lot of fun. There were inter-school competitions, typical
right.
like whatever happens in a city, but in a smaller scale.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that of course you're comparing with this knowledge, right? Back then you didn't have a frame of reference.
yeah, back then I didn't know that city life will be different
Right,
because I don't usually travel to city. We were like happily settled in Kanchipuram and we were having a nice time with whatever we could. There was a small playground we used to play and all that. Only thing is, I was more of a, I would say, studious person.
right, right.
I
Yeah,
was first rank holder for the majority of my school years.
yeah.
And if I get a second rank, my father will scold me saying, if you're not able to get first rank in a small town, how will you go survive in a big city? I
Whoa,
mean,
man.
so
I'm
that
glad your
is.
dad wasn't my dad. I would have just given up.
I'm like, oh, okay. So something big is happening in a big city. That's the only frame of reference I had.
Right.
growing up,
That
right?
your town wasn't the biggest thing on the map. That you
Correct,
are
exactly,
living in a place which isn't the primary focus when it comes to. Um, I mean, when it comes to a big city, people think that that's the best place for the best jobs, for the best kind of homes, kind of thing, right?
correct,
Right.
exactly. And after, I mean, till 10th standard, I was doing my schooling in Kanchipuram, and we had a lot of fun. But only problem which I would say is communication in
Right.
English. English
Okay.
was a drawback. Yeah, I usually tell in my corporate show saying Kanchipuram nobody speaks English, including my English teachers in school, which is
Yeah.
a true thing.
It's
Which
actually
is a
true.
true
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
It's
And
actually
that's
true.
that's why it's even more funny.
Exactly. So English teachers were so well versed in Tamil. So
Right.
than
Right.
in English. So
No, you'd be
basically, that's how
surprised though.
it
That was
was.
the case even in a lot of colleges. Like I went from a pretty well-established English school.
Hmm.
I mean, till the 12th, I was in English schools throughout, right? It was like a co-ed and English speaking, predominantly English speaking students as well. And for me, that was a complete opposite of you, right? Like I had to sort of, I learned how to think in English, whereas in your case, you had to think in Tamil, right?
And
And
translate in
the
English.
interesting thing is when I did finish, and for a year or two before leaving abroad for a university abroad, I went to this smaller. I mean, it's a big college, but it wasn't what I was used to growing up. And there, English was really, really badly taught. So especially the English language, when we had to take that as one of the classes, was so badly taught. And in fact, the strange thing is we had one of the lessons we had in my 10th, which was retaught to us in the first year of degree. And
Hmm.
it was completely differently taught. Like that message was that like technology can be bad if it's not controlled, is what the message was in 10th standard. This lady said, see how amazing this equipment is. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So it's such an
yeah, yeah,
interesting,
yeah,
even in
yeah,
a
yeah,
city, you have
yeah,
such possibilities,
yeah. But I was thinking that was a bad thing, but then slowly I realized that okay, English is just a language
Yeah.
that's for communication. Even
Right.
if you're not good at English, it's okay. It's okay to
Is that what you
survive.
told yourself or what was told to you?
No, I learned it over a period of time. That time I
Right.
felt bad because
Okay.
after 10th, I moved to Chennai for my 11th and 12th.
Okay.
Okay, for
Okay.
my dad put me onto the school for getting better marks, for getting into the better college later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he realized staying in Kanchipuram that time won't get me into a big college, which is also not great. Since 11th and 12th in Kanchipuram also would have made sense. But
Yeah.
then I had to play along and I moved to Chennai for 11th and 12th.
Okay.
And that's when I there was a little bit of gap in
Okay.
communication. When
Okay.
people are talking in good English, I was hesitating to talk. So I prefer to
Yeah.
keep quiet, right?
Right.
So to for some time, I prefer to keep quiet and then slowly opened up.
Mm.
But that gap was there, and then that time I felt bad, like saying, okay,
Right.
I should have learned better English in school
Yeah.
because they were talking in good English, and I was like, yes, no, maybe, yes, no. So
Mm.
these are the words I was using
But
commonly.
did that make you despise these people, or did you sort of be encouraged to learn it? Like because the reason I ask is there's this sense now, and I'm sure you know of it with the space we're in, where there's such a divide, right? Where people are like defining themselves by in the space of comedy by the language they speak, right? They're like Hindi comedian, Tamil comedian, Kannada comedian, which of course I understand in a country as diverse as India, it's doable, but maybe to jump the gun a little bit. From doing predominantly English material in English to now predominantly material in Tamil,
Mm,
um, what is your sense of where things are? Like comfort level, number one. Second is audience, the reception you get, the
mm,
kind of material that you're able to put out. Um, just to get a sense of this, because I don't do, even though I speak Kannada, my entire sort of comedy is in English.
mm.
Do you feel there's um, I don't know what the question specifically could be. Is it like, does it open up more opportunities when it comes to a career, but also does it make you more confident as a performer?
Okay, I was doing English stand-up from 2009 to 2016, 17.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
probably years I was doing English stand-up, and my English got little bit better
mm,
after my college in BITS, and after I came to Bangalore to do my MBA,
yeah,
I had to talk to non-Tamilians. So that was
yeah,
the first step of learning because In Tamil, with Tamilians, you talk in Tamil and there's no scope of improving your language.
Yeah.
But once I started talking to non-Tamilians in my MBA college, that's when I started having an affinity towards talking in English.
Ah,
And I
okay.
once I kept talking, I you know that English slightly started improving. And
Right.
after 2009, after I started talking to you, we speak almost every day,
Yeah.
you and me. So
Yeah.
that definitely helped me in putting my thoughts into words.
Mm.
So that really helps. So that way I didn't feel it very difficult to do perform in English
Okay.
for
Okay.
8 years. But 2017 Feb, I think in your house only the conversation happened. 2017 Feb, in your
Yeah.
house we were talking about performing in Tamil,
Yeah.
because Biswa also was telling, you were also telling me that
Yeah.
why don't you perform in a language which you are more comfortable with, rather
Which I
than
think you,
thinking in a
which
language
I
and
think the line I
translating.
said is a language which you think in.
Ah, think correct,
Yeah.
exactly. That rather than in a language which you think and then getting translated.
Yeah.
So that was the turning point. That your housewarming party was a turning point,
Mm.
and I went home, thought about it,
I mean, I
and
meant it because less competition for me, but you took it in the positive, so it's okay. I'm like one less guy doing English comedy. But no, but I
right.
genuinely felt, because did you ever feel? I'll tell you where I'm coming from with this before we speak about the Tamil comedy. See, because how you mentioned that in your town,
Mhm.
there was not so much focus given to learning English, and as a result, you felt a little uncertain of speaking the language when you moved to a bigger city like Chennai.
Correct, correct,
And
correct.
this, you'd be surprised. And you said that when you started speaking to me, you started feeling more comfortable and the fluency improved.
Hmm.
But you'd be surprised, right? People think automatically because I'm born and brought up in Bangalore, went to a school that teaches English, and throughout that, I'm completely comfortable and confident, which isn't the case because while for you it was the move to Chennai, for me it was the move to the UK. So when I went for university
Oh,
there, I
okay,
felt
okay. Huh.
so sort of insecure about my accent, not about English. So it's so strange, right? That when you go there, people made fun of the fact that I couldn't say like V, like vegetables. I would say Indians have this habit of saying it with W, right? Like vegetable, vehicle. So I would be mocked, not all the time, but I was so conscious of and aware of the fact that I spoke differently. So they would say, "Oh, vegetable, ha ha ha." They would make fun of the Indian accent,
Hmm.
and that would make me either more sort of hesitant to speak out in class in the lectures, or I would put on an accent. So it's so weird because I came back then, and I do this, as you've heard in my set, that my parents sent me abroad thinking, okay, at least this blind kid, if nothing else, he'll come back with an accent so he can at least sound cool. So that was not even a joke, that was the case. So I in fact would come and impress the girls or impress whoever with putting on a bit of an accent. But the weirdest part is I went to Wales and came back with an English accent, which is so so that's
Oh,
why I wanted to understand, because it made and through whatever direction and route we went, we ended up in the same sort of space with work, right? And for you, as you said, when you started doing stand up, talking to people and getting more confident, English became more and more natural. And for
correct.
me, in fact, that was the hurdle, was breaking past that accent, because the
Ah,
moment I get on stage, my thing was putting on a bit of a kind of like, I wouldn't call it an English accent, but there was definitely not my natural voice coming out, right? The natural way I speak.
correct,
That
correct.
took so many years to overcome. So it's so
Hmm.
strange that we have these very different yet similar problems.
Correct. And initially, you also know, initially I had problems with this accent or diction or
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah, and someone I
So
think who Don Ward told you, right, from the
Don
comedy
Ward
store.
told me
Yeah,
after my performance, Don Ward came and told me saying he didn't understand a word of what he said,
yeah.
what I said, and then he cannot promote me if I continue like this. Then I was
I mean, that's the
dejected,
same
and
kind of people I had to impress living in England. So it's, yeah, it's
again there is a similarity there.
yeah.
And I came back home and I was thinking on how to neutralize my accent, on how to
Mm,
improve the diction or whatever. Then Ashwin Matthew, he like an angel came and told me saying, see, you are thinking about that one person who didn't understand. You didn't think about the
yeah,
300 people who enjoyed.
correct, correct.
Ultimately, what is important to you? Not that one person who can promote you, but 300 people who will definitely promote you.
Who've already
So
come for your show, yeah, and who enjoyed it,
already
yeah,
come exactly. So that is a testimony for your.
yeah,
When you don't have to change for the audience, or make
yeah.
audience like you for who you are.
Absolutely. And
Accept you are a Tamilian, accept you come from a small town, accept that you have
yeah,
this accent, accept that you have this diction,
I mean, if
make
you
them
put on
love
an
for
accent,
this.
then you're just another call center guy who's training to be. I mean, you're not unique in who you are. And I want to ask you, did you ever feel people laughed at you and not at your jokes?
No,
Okay.
I don't know. Probably during the corporate show bar when people are in the bar drinking, probably.
Okay.
But
No, no,
I
I'm not
don't know.
saying
I
that
haven't.
if they did or didn't, but did you ever feel self-conscious about that? Because I mean, I felt this is from a different point again, but similar things. There's a more of a comedy kind of space. Is I was scared to talk about my eyesight or lack of rather. Because I felt they laugh at me at my vulnerability and the believability that oh, this guy is making fun of himself, or is he, you know what I mean, that place you go down. Did you ever feel any of that in any sort of aspect of yourself?
Initially, I was for my diction and vocabulary, but then
Right.
after some time, after performing in Tamil, I realized okay, English is just a language.
Hmm.
Whatever you want to communicate, you can still communicate in whatever language you're comfortable with. But
And that's
still,
something I
I'm
really sort
yeah,
of, man, is remarkable about you, right? Your spirit to, um, and that's sort of why I want to talk about your early years. Is you come from a family that's, you know, sort of really educated, well to do, in the sense they, you also travel, your brothers abroad, and also in some ways, while they're sort of open minded in that way, they're also conservative when it comes to what a person should do in their life, right? They should study well, get a job, start a
correct.
family, all those kind of conventional things. But in your own space, with this, what you just mentioned, of sticking to your guns, moving to a city, and also saying, you know what, I'm not going to just become, you know, roll over and push over and become someone they just tell me to do, but I'm going to stick to what I want with my own framework. And that's something so remarkable, because with every decision you've taken, from stand up to thing, has been quite unconventional. So what is that sort of thing that pushes you to do these things?
um, Acceptance on the audience and what
Mhm.
Ashwin told me also. So
Right.
once I realized after 2 3 shows, I realized okay, audience like me for who I am. First,
Right.
after that, every time I go on stage, I tell okay, I am from a small town.
Yeah.
I am a Tamilian. This is how my accent will be.
Yeah.
Please put up with me.
Right.
So first of all, they appreciate the honesty.
Yeah.
If you are honest to yourself, you
Yeah.
can be honest with the audience, and the audience will like you. So that is
And
my
that's
mantra.
amazing that you bring that up, because I was almost like we were trying to win over the same audience, right?
Hmm.
And I felt that you could easily do that more times than me, because I was trying to fight this image. And the reason I'm harping so much on this point is because people think that, and especially people from small towns, because there's a big move, right, from small towns to big cities now,
Yeah.
that people in big cities have this sense of arrogance because they speak the language better. And in fact, that's not the case. People always kind of think people from smaller towns are more disadvantaged in the big city, but that's not the case, because you're an example of this, that you're not willing to let down, sorry, step back and just say, you know what, I'll take anything that's thrown at me. You're in fact willing to stand by who you are. And in many cases, for me, I was trying to fight this identity crisis, right? Of what am I? Am I an Indian? Am I a British Indian? Am I this guy with an English accent? So many things. And you were a reminder a lot of times that you can be yourself. So that's, sorry about the roundabout way to get into the point, but that's
Yeah, yeah, makes
what I
sense.
found remarkable, you know?
Thank you, sir. So basically, that's what. So you have to be honest to yourself. I had the thought of neutralizing my accent, joining a call center training, whatever.
Yeah.
So many thoughts came into my mind, and that's when luckily Ashwin Matthew told me, and then I
Right.
realized. And after a couple of shows, I realized, okay, this is how it works.
Yeah.
You be yourself on stage. So that was a turning point. After that, I understood how the whole thing works, and I be myself on stage. So the kind of jokes I wrote became better. The kind of
Yeah.
connect I got with the audience became better. Probably that is one of the reasons why I was able to shift to speaking Tamil comedy more swiftly than I thought.
Because you've
I
done something
thought
much
it will
harder. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, and I thought it will be a huge process of shifting from English to Tamil. It was
Hey,
not.
was that unlearning a big part of it? The reason I'm interjecting with that point is because you said that transition was easier. So, did
Yeah.
you feel there was a lot of things you have to undo?
No, not much.
Okay, okay,
Probably except for the language, nothing else. Because stand up work the same way. The whatever we learned in English, we can use the same for Tamil.
Mm.
Only thing is there is only thing which I was worried about is my non-Tamil regular followers who used to come to my shows,
Okay.
and I was not giving them anything. That was
Mm.
my only negative thing about shifting from English to Tamil. And there were a
Mm.
lot of messages saying, "See, we usually come to your shows, but you moved to Tamil. We are not able to understand." I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
sorry. This is a conscious decision I have to take." But I will be releasing the same in an online platform with English subtitle. That's the only way I can satisfy you guys. But
Mm.
I am thinking about the long run. See, I know I might lose 10 followers, but in turn, I'll be getting 100 followers new.
And has
So,
that happened? Did you? I mean, because of course it's been what, 3 years now, 4 years since
yeah,
you've been doing Tamil.
yes, no.
So the reason I told you to do Tamil because it's more natural for you. That's what in my head, that was my logic
Correct,
for
correct.
recommending that option to you. And also the fact that now with this particular trend I'm observing, right,
Mhm.
where Indians living, so the idea of speaking English is, of course, for me now, there's no other language I can think in. I mean, of course, I can pick up different languages, but the idea for me to do comedy in English is to reach out to the world, and through YouTube or platforms also people from different parts of the world appreciating my perspective and my comedy and observations or whatever, right?
Mm,
That's the idea in my head, the power of the internet. But what I'm noticing in the flip side is also a people kind of flocking to what they are comfortable with. By what I mean by that is Tamilians in, say, Australia,
mm,
catching content which reminds them of home, which is, say, your
correct.
Tamil jokes or your Tamil material. So that is another phenomenon which is sort of developed with the internet, is people are more comfortable sort of flocking to content that reminds them of home. And as a result, you get to perform to Tamilians in California, in Texas, or wherever it may be, right? So, so as a result, you might lose those 10 English speaking people who don't follow Tamil, but you're now able to connect with more Tamilians across the world as well, which is crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. So whatever we wanted to do through English comedy, I'm doing it with Tamil comedy, traveling
Mm,
across the world, but still catering the Tamilians.
right.
So idea is to be comfortable on stage, be yourself on stage, and audience also should like you. So that is the balance which you have to strike. And
Mm,
I understood that if I speak in Tamil, audience like me,
yeah.
especially see when I started performing in Tamil, a huge market opened up. In the
Mm,
sense, I could perform in a small town, right?
right.
I can go and perform in a Trichy, in a and in people started bringing their parents who don't
Mm.
understand English because
Yeah,
people.
you went down that family route pretty quickly, right, in Tamil?
Correct, correct. And I was doing it for English, slowly moved on to Tamil also with that.
Okay.
But only thing is, people who are regular uh, watchers, regular attenders of stand up, regular audience for stand up live shows,
Hmm. Hmm.
they were watching it on their own for English stand up. But if
Okay.
I once I started performing in Tamil, they started bringing their parents,
Right.
right? Because they don't understand English, they were not bringing them to English shows, they were understanding Tamil, so brought them to my show. So in that
Right.
sense, the audience started getting wider.
And they're kids, right? I think you encourage
Yeah,
kids into
kids.
show as
Yeah,
well, right?
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Kids
I
are
don't know
there.
how you do that, man. It's for me like, whoa, okay. It's like, I mean, it's crazy that you have now from two people who were your fans or coming for a show, husband, wife, say for example. Now it's six people, right? Because it's husband, wife, parents, and their kids. So it's like automatically you've got more ticket sales. That's quite
Correct. See,
crazy.
if you're like my kids, the entire family will come. So because I used to
Mm,
watch Toy Story, Kung Fu Panda in theater,
right.
because my daughter liked. So
Ah, so
that's
you're
the
saying
secret.
parents just sort of by default, okay, the kids will be happy, we'll be happy.
And we cannot
Okay.
send them alone.
Right.
So
That's a very smart. I don't know if you thought about it as a marketing strategy, but it's pretty damn
no,
smart.
it is a smart move, but I didn't think of that. But
Yeah.
that's how it is happening. Like because I've heard a lot of people, lot of mothers
Hmm.
messaging me saying, "Me and my
Oh, look at
son
you,
are
Praveen.
very big."
Oh man, you're one of those comedians for the mothers, is it?
Mothers messaging me and my son, me and my daughter are big fans. My 8-year-old,
Nice,
my ten
nice.
year old son. That way that is really overwhelming. And I
Yeah,
get messages saying my grandfather hasn't laughed for so many days, but after seeing your show, he laughed. So those kind of
yeah.
overwhelming messages like reinstate the fact that I took the right decision of moving to
And you're
Tamil.
also, I mean, your show was supposed to be called Family Man because that was the plan. But do you, I mean, do you sense your material? Because I mean, you've always been a person talking about family, right? Because you, through your stand-up early days and till date, you've always had a wife and a child as a part of your source of material. But do you notice more and more now, because as these kids who come for your shows grow older, they will also still appreciate comedy, right? So do you kind of think about this space where you're like, okay, now what's the material I want to put out? Do I want to appease these families as a unit? Do I want to sort of cultivate these youngsters as fans for the future? So what is your thought process when you're putting out material?
Okay, my thought process will be to do what I like to do, in the sense talk about family, but in
Hmm.
everybody's point of view. Probably in due course of time, I can talk about my family from my daughter's point of view once she
Okay.
is growing up.
Hmm.
So this is how she is thinking. This is how I am dealing with her in a funny way.
Right.
So my daughter will be the same age of my other young followers. Probably
Right.
they become a teen. If I
Hmm.
talk about the problem which I'm having with my daughter as a teen, they'll be
Yeah.
able to relate to it.
Yeah.
So basically, a family with a husband, wife, and a kid will
Yeah.
be able to relate to it, because my daughter is also growing up. So every time she grows up, I have some problem. Once I
Hmm.
talk about that problem, they should be able to relate to it. A father
Right.
or mother should be able to relate as a parent, and the kid should be able to relate as a kid.
Child as well. Right.
So basically, that is how I'm planning. I'm planning to do only family related stuff, because the
Hmm.
next special which I'm working on is about moving from Bangalore to Chennai, and
Right. That's
as a
the
family.
most recent development in your life. Right. Right.
Correct. So
Hmm.
that can be a full topic to talk about it by itself, right?
Right. No, I want to
So
understand, man. This thing is very important that you mentioned, that this perspective, right? It's so important, right? That keeps the fans connected with what your material is about. Because you talk about being, point of view from a husband, point of view from a dad. But I want to understand something which I don't know if I'm missing out on or missing the point on. Is there a big disconnect between people like, say, Indians who grew up in two things? One is in a small city versus a big city. Second is because of this. I mean, there's someone who told me the other day, right? Sandeep, you speak English and you're trying to do podcasts for English speaking Indians, more importantly, English thinking Indians. But you got to remember, those are Indians. That's 0.1% of the country. And now they call them Indians and Bharat. Have you heard this the reference sometimes?
is it? No,
So,
I
yeah.
didn't know.
So,
Uh,
Indians is like people like me, so called privileged or whatever nonsense, right?
mm,
English speaking, English thinking people. But the
mm.
majority of the investment is going after. So, everyone from a Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, two massive venture capitalists are going after Bharat. Bharat is, of course, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. It's Bharat,
Oh,
right? That is the
oh, got it, got it.
vernacular. That is the
Uh,
non-English speaking. So, do you? I mean,
okay.
of course, you're in a position to answer this. So, do you sense this divide when you look at someone like me, or like, even for instance, like our friend Sanjay, who started comedy with us? Um, was an NRI, right? And even they are sort of now coming to India. Like, I mean, not they as in like like an alien invasion, but what I mean is, there's this sense now India being so much of filled with so much opportunity. So I was going to get your thoughts on that. I mean, I don't have a question per se, and my questions tend to be 30 pages long. But what I mean is, do you sense this divide in India with city people, English speaking, this entire sort of thing happening right now?
See, I cannot tell overall, but I can tell from a stand-up comedy perspective.
Yeah,
In the sense, I think everybody has their own audience. It
right.
depends on how we tap them. See, you have amazing audience. Okay, even if it is 1% of India, let's say, that's a
I don't think so. I
huge
think it's
number.
point 0.01% of Bangalore.
Point. No, no, I'm saying the potential audience.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
potential audience, if it's even if it is 1% of India, that's a huge number,
yeah, yeah,
right? It depends on us how to tap them. See, Sanjay has his own followers.
yeah,
Sanjay, the kind of topics he chose to talk from an
yeah.
NRI's point of view. So he
And
was
also, he
favorite
made
among
himself
corporate.
into a much smaller niche with a techie kind of thing, right? Yeah,
Corporate to software guys. So
yeah,
it depends on who we are targeting. See, my target will be, even there are tons of Tamilians who don't like me, the
right.
younger audience who expect something different. I cannot give them. See, I can give
Mm.
them only this family stories and other related stuff which
Yeah,
family people can understand, like little older audience will understand. So I'm
yeah.
happy with that niche audience.
Mm.
So everybody has got their own audience. It depends on how we tap them, how we look at it. So I don't see any divide.
Mm.
I The only divide is the language, because you
Right.
speak in English, your comedy is in English, my comedy is in Tamil. That's the only difference. Otherwise, We are doing
Mm.
comedy as an art. We love comedy. We love performing in
We
front of
love laughter.
audience.
Yeah, yeah,
We love laughter. You like to write and perform. I like to write and perform. You perform for a different audience. I perform
yeah.
for a different audience. Both of us are happy.
No,
Earlier,
I really
I
like
used
that
to write
outlook.
with Sanjay.
Yeah,
We both used to sit and write 2010, 11 times when we were
yeah,
doing Bacchus. We
yeah,
used to meet at
yeah,
Koramangala. We used to sit and write. We exchange ideas. Slowly, we
yeah,
realized, okay, his style is different. My style is different. His audience is different. My audience is different. There's no
yeah,
point in me giving him suggestion which he can work, and no point in
yeah,
him giving me that. So we realized that we stopped writing together, but still
yeah.
we helped each other for different things.
And I think
And
that's universal in comedy, right? Like, even though you don't get the language, sometimes when you hear a certain thing, I think it's a comedic beat or a comedic sense for something. Even though you might not get the joke in its entirety because of a language barrier, I can give you a tip saying, do this arrangement, if it's better, or something which is more universal to comedy and not specific to a language, which we can
correct.
help each other out with.
Exactly. There's so,
Yeah,
so many things around comedy. So Sanjay was helping me with a lot of stuff. I'm
yeah,
ever grateful for that. But so many things around comedy, not only giving you a joke,
yeah.
but helping you record something which you wanted to edit it and
Mm.
post it on your behalf. That's a
Or
huge
small
help.
tips like how to improve your modulation or how to improve your
Exactly.
presentation on stage. I mean, how to stand. There's so many things. But I'm saying on a fundamental level, like I get a little cheesed off now when people sort of try to separate, right? Saying, oh, Hindi comedian, English. I'm like, dude, the idea is comedy, right? Now we're using a certain
Exactly.
language because it's better for us when it comes to expressing the joke. But
Correct.
these platforms also are trying to create this divide. I sense this thing where they're trying to pitch people against each other. Like, and I heard some shocking stuff, like which is so ridiculous that in Bangalore, apparently maybe a year back, that it's a Kannada open mic, and they don't
Okay.
allow non-Kannada speakers and in that open mic. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Because the idea of a city progressing and becoming more inclusive and becoming more rich in its culture is to encourage everyone to sort of share their ideas, right? So if you make this more isolated, saying, or if you don't speak Kannada, then this is only for Kannada speaking comedians. I'm like, you're making it. I understand that people will appreciate it and this, but isn't comedy for everyone? And
Uh,
to get the sort of the make the market bigger for everyone.
Correct. Exactly. See, even
Yeah,
Chennai open mic, some couple of North Indian comics came and performed in Hindi.
yeah,
Assume
that's
people
yeah,
understand Hindi, and not many, but at least one or two people understood, and they got a good response. So
yeah,
basically, there shouldn't. If it is an open mic, it has to be completely open,
yeah.
not
That's yeah,
completely open. Right? You should
yeah.
also be open to understand the comics perspective from a different language. Like if I go and perform in Tamil in Bangalore, I should know that if there is no audience, there's no point in performing. But
Yeah.
the this guy shouldn't tell me. The organizer
Yeah, I
shouldn't tell
mean,
me not to do it.
I've heard this, and I'm sure you've heard this. People are like, "Why are you podcast?" Like my friends, like, "Dude, you must convert your material, like, do your entire thing in Kannada." I'm like, "Dude, the point is, I don't speak it well enough to be
Hmm.
compelling on stage, right? I mean, I can communicate in Kannada, but I don't think in the language. So, like how you said, your jokes translate very easily from English to Tamil or Tamil to
Uh,
English. I can't, because I don't think in Kannada, right? The second point is, this is something I do naturally. I like podcasting in this language. I like speaking in this language. I like communicating in this language. And for me, the idea is that someone sitting could be anywhere. And this is not saying that Indian following or Indian fans are not good, but it's my thought process that in addition to having people from India like my comedy, that could be Indians in India or Indians abroad, I would also like, for instance, say whether it's this podcast or a stand-up piece, someone sitting, say, in Egypt, and
hmm.
they come across my material or my podcast, and they're like, man, you know what? The beauty of globalization is to get everyone in this big wide world to
Hmm.
share their stories, and someone maybe say who's a city bred person in Cairo says,
Hmm.
hey, but this point this guy has about, say, shopping on Amazon, I like his take on it. And that's the idea of the unique,
Exactly.
right? That I can sit and listen to someone, in say in Singapore, talking
Hmm.
about taxi drivers. And I'm like, you know what? Even though I've never been in a taxi in Singapore, I find that really funny. Or like, for instance,
Hmm.
why do you and I like watching Dave Chappelle, right? You're not black, I'm not black. We've never grown up in the city that he refers to. But why is he so
Correct.
funny? Is because he's bringing his stories, the stories of his experience through his way of telling stories. And I mean, dude, like the bit we've laughed at, there's no reason for us to laugh at, but that's the idea of a comedian, right? You make people laugh who aren't typically who like you.
Correct.
Yeah,
Exactly. See, ultimately, we have to be comfortable on stage, and audience also should be comfortable listening to us from that point. So
Yeah,
basically, if you are comfortable with English, you should do in English. If I
yeah,
am comfortable with Tamil, I should do Tamil. See, your target audience are huge, like in the
mm,
worldwide. My
yeah,
target audience are also worldwide, but speaking one particular language.
yeah,
But still, ultimately, both of us are working the same thing and working towards reaching most of them towards
yeah.
our stand
No,
up.
which I think
And
is beautiful. That's why I wanted your point of view on it, to not separate and say that. And this is a trend now. And as you said, right, that everyone was doing it, so you feel pressured to do it. Like and you and I know people, right, who've learned a language because it's the hot thing right now to do comedy in that language. But I think what you are saying, I think, is important for people listening to sort of take note of is stick to what you're good at. I mean, stick to what you want to do and sort of is natural to you, and build on that, because while it might not seem profitable or might not seem successful or anything in the short run, as you do it for longer and sort of don't lose focus of why you're doing it, you kind of build a much more, um, I would say, in the case of fans, a much more set of loyal fans who are with you for the long haul, and not someone who'll keep skipping from today's trending comedian to the next trending comedian, you know?
yes, exactly. Ultimately, according to me, a stage persona is something which you should be comfortable on stage, and
Mm,
audience also should be comfortable watching you on stage delivering
yeah,
jokes. So
yeah,
both of them should match.
right,
Whatever it can be, it can be English, and audience should like you performing in English. It can be
correct,
Tamil, audience should like you performing. That's all. There is
correct.
no other divide. You should be comfortable. Then only you will make others laugh. Simple.
Correct. No, I think that's really good advice, because I mean, the thing is to cut corners. Sometimes people are like, you know what, I'm going to act like this comedian on stage, which is
Uh,
not at all. And as you mentioned, right, the most important thing for comedy, if you're not honest and you're not comfortable in your own skin, then your audience can sense it immediately, right? And they're going to be like, you know what, this guy's a fake.
exactly. So
Yeah.
the Tamil comedian called Vadivelu, you must be knowing. It's a
You've told me
legend.
about him. I've heard the name. I don't know him at all, but you mentioned his name.
The Tamil movie comedy is a legend.
Right.
Okay, there were about at least some 40, 50 impersonators of
Mm.
Vadivel.
Yeah.
These people are doing his body language, the way he dresses. Nobody could sustain
Yeah.
because there can be only one Vadivel,
And I think that's
right?
an important word you mentioned, sustaining it, because I mean, we pretty much between the two of us know 90%, 99% of the comedians in India. And I think through doing this for 11 years, we've seen the guys and girls who come and do it for the byproducts, right? Because they want the quick fix, they want the quick Amazon Prime, sorry, Amazon Comic Stan, or they want the quick YouTube hits. And I mean, how many have we seen come and go, dude? A lot of
See,
them,
I
no?
still remember one of the open mics. One guy came for the first time,
Uh,
and I was talking. I asked, "What is the reason for your doing stand?" He said, "I wanted a profile picture for my Tinder.
wow. So just to
That's
hold a
all.
mic. Yeah.
Just to holding a mic." He took a picture. After that, he didn't come.
Mm.
So people have different plans. Some people use stand-up comedy as a means to go into movies.
Yeah.
This will be one step easier to
Yeah.
go into movies. Some people,
Yeah, so, and I think that some people use that because it's not so many people doing it. At least back then, there weren't so many people doing it, that they can kind of like, like the visa line, right? To apply for a student visa takes longer, so they get spouse visa, then go to America. So
exactly
comedy
same thing,
became
same
the
thing.
way to jump the queue, right? Yeah,
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So their priorities are different. So,
yeah,
but for you and me, we love stand-up comedy, not
yeah,
just comedy. We love stand-up comedy. We love performing.
yeah.
So that is
And,
where
and
both
we've
of us
tried it all.
started.
I think we've done. I mean, I've done. Oh my God! If I think of that, it makes
Proud,
me
no?
feel anxious. The no, no, the I wrote a sketch show. It was the most disastrous moment on stage in my life, dude. Like if I think back of that, I start sweating. Like it was so embarrassing. It
Well,
was, oh God. And I think improv was good. I did that with the center stage folks.
yeah,
We
yeah.
had some good shows. But my God, do you remember that show?
You and Sal did that one.
That was a miserable. That was so bad. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about our show where the group you formed called What the Foo, right?
Oh,
And okay, I'm going to take you, the people, through this experience. It was at this theater called Kaira. So then Praveen, no, was it this? What was first? Was the improv first?
we did everything, sir. We
No, no.
did
So there was stand up. So it was
stand-up
Sanjay, Praveen, and
and
I doing stand up. Then there was a group which had Praveen, this guy called what? What was his name? Tristan, Dustin.
Deepak. Oh, no, no, okay. Dustin is the Canadian guy.
Yeah, he was a part
Dustin,
of it. Rajiv Matthew. You had a friend who was acting
William
as host.
Massey.
Yes, William. So
William
I
Massey.
think that so improv happened first,
Brian.
which was first of all, the crowd was chaotic, right? They were talking, they were loud. So and in comedy, if you go as the closer, that's sort of in your head, right? You're like, wow, I'm closing the show, which I realized was the worst thing I could have asked for, right? I told Sanjay's like, yeah, buddy, you should close the show. I said, cool, it's awesome. So the improv didn't go that well. At least they were listening. Sanjay comes up, does stand up, they listened, they did okay. Praveen goes up, they start listening less, but they're still listening. I go up on stage. 2 minutes into my set, they start banging the table with forks and knives. Get off the fucking stage. Get off the. I'm like, oh my god. And dude, at that point, I was one of these guys, right? I want to be seen on stage. So I dressed up with nice jeans. I done up my hair, and I felt. And my wife now, my girlfriend, the Nivi. I think that was the second show she had come for, and I was so embarrassed, dude.
It was 2010 or 11, right?
This was 2000 and this was before we started Bacchus. So
10 must be then.
yeah, no, it was definitely 10, but I think it was maybe um, just around July, August. We started Bacchus in July. So it was
Ah,
literally like a second or third show. And I was, my
correct,
God,
correct.
it was so miserable, man. If I think of that show and the show with Sal, right?
Hmm.
If those two are my only memories of comedy, I should probably quit. It was so bad.
No, basically, we didn't have any godfather for us to guide.
Yeah.
Okay, saying do stand up first and then you do improv. Nobody was there to tell us.
We actually learned a lot.
We learned a
This is
lot
not to
on our
toot our
own.
own horns, but I think, I mean, I had some frame of context when it came to I'm inspired by the likes of Robin Williams, Dave Chappelle, and I think for you, then Sanjay and I introduced you to these American comedians to watch, right? But I think for you, I think your sort of inspiration was Papa CJ, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Apache and Veerdas are the only two people I was looking up to. Until now,
Mm.
I love both of them
Right.
for being a great human being and also a great comedian. So
Absolutely. Yeah. For you, they
I never
really.
saw anybody else that time. I never knew there was someone called Russell Peters till you guys told me about it.
Mm.
So after that, I started watching his videos, and after that,
Yeah.
since because he was Indian, I was able to relate to it. But other than that, I was not able to relate to any of
But you
the.
still found him funny in some places,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, definitely.
And I think that that's so important to highlight, bro. Like, I come from a very different way of thinking, in the sense my hopes and dreams are, not all the time similar. And Sanjay's is very different. Yours is very different. But still, we got along so well, even though we're three different, very different worlds. Like, we come from, I mean, not different worlds, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think, but the fundamentals that we value: family, we value honesty, we value good jokes. I think those things, I think it's good for people to realize that you don't have to be so similar when it comes to. I mean, the reason I bring it up
Friendship.
is in today's day and age where people are fighting over gender, fighting over political identity. There's sort of, when the internet is filled with that, right? Like, where if you're not BJP, I hate you. If you're not gay, I hate. Like, all these things being thrown around. I think it's important to highlight the fact that our friendship, and that I include Sanjay in this, is that it doesn't need to be outwardly similar people being together, but the fundamentals that bring us together.
Definitely, definitely. Yes. We both didn't want to cheat anybody. All three of us were learning. All three of
Yeah.
us were new to this. We all learned together. We made mistakes, lot of mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
We met with so many new people. Some of them were good. Some of them were horrible. Some of them wanted to cheat us, and we
Yeah.
went through a lot. And because of that's also one of the reasons because we were going through it all together.
Yeah.
Good things, bad things, everything we were going together. That also made our bond stronger.
Man, absolutely. I think one thing, and we made fun of each other. That's one thing to important highlight as an important thing is it's not like we've been saints, right? We've kind of had mistakes and regrets. But the thing is, this particular thing is what got me through a lot of times in stand up when, how it became, right? With seeing people who are newer to comedy succeed before you, kind of thing. But we had each other's calls to look forward to and um, get us through those times. I think whether it be the move for you to go into, say, OML, or whether it's move to Tamil, or it's my kind of decision to do radio, or whatever it may be, which were kind of scary decisions. I think having someone, have your back was so important. And I think that's what people don't realize now is they are more successful than us, they're more popular than us, but they don't have this friendship with someone in
Hmm.
this business who can look out for them, because they're so scared that everyone is out to get them and sort of take their fame away.
correct. And three of us almost quit our jobs, or almost the same. You quit first, and then Sanjay and
I didn't
I.
really have a job, so I could quit easily. See, because you had a family to look out for, right?
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
a kid
yeah,
and a
yeah,
wife, and I didn't
yeah,
have
yeah.
those commitments, so I could do it easily, much more easily. So I did it first, you did it second, and then
Sanjay and
Sanjay.
I did it together, and see
Right.
that risk also we took together. So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is everything we did together. For the first
Yeah.
few years, we were always together. We were doing new venues, we were doing new kind of shows. We kind of wrote together. We
Yeah.
sustained together. We learned a lot of things together. Then we
Yeah.
branched out to our own target audience, different kind of stand up. But ultimately, whatever basics we learned at the beginning of a career is still helping us
Hmm.
cope with whatever we are facing. Like we performed for one audience open mic, that is still happening now also. But
Yeah.
still, I'm saying that those kind of things cannot forget, and that is one of the reasons why we are still great friends.
Yeah, and you say that you giggled a little bit when you said the one audience member shows. I mean, I don't think that's funny, dude. I still have one audience member shows. I
No,
don't.
still we are doing, still we are doing.
That's
That's what I'm saying. That kind of helped us saying, okay, there's
yeah,
nothing bad. We can still make that person
yeah.
laugh. So that
And I think
confidence is
Sanjay
still
gave us
happening.
some very important, sensible points. I think because he was, I mean, the weird thing about Sanjay is he gave us a lot of sensible points, but he didn't follow the same points.
So that is how we bitch against each other.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure he'll watch this,
Yeah, yeah.
but
I'm sure we'll make sure he watches this.
yeah, we'll cut out this part and send it to him, especially.
Yeah.
No, but I sense this, man, because the thing is, I wanted to get you on this not for just your achievements, which is a lot, by the way, guys. I'm sure you've heard Praveen's name in the context of comedy, especially if you've been following comedy, you've heard Praveen's name. But it's your spirit to try out new things, man. Like you, of course, your material, as you said, you're very clear on who your audience is, but the fact that you're willing to go to countries where you're not, I mean, you're fluent with the language, but you go, and I think that that small town move to a big town was that sort of that resilience that it built in you when it comes to, I'm going to do this and be myself wherever in the world. I really sort of salute that spirit of yours. So what are some of the things that go through your mind when you're taking such decisions, whether it's to move to a new city, whether it's to do an international tour? So for people, I think it is really inspiring to hear it. So if you could talk about that, that would be great.
Okay, first things first. First, I need to sell out that show. That show has to sell out. That's a major worry
Yeah.
about. But other than that, see, it's a new place. That excitement is there. Okay, it's going to be a new place. We're going to see new people. We're going to see sightseeing and all that. So excitement
Mm.
is more. And I'm not a kind of person who will go directly and talk to a stranger. I'm not that extrovert. But
Right.
there will be people who are organizing this. Their friends who
Mm.
come and talk to me. I talk to them very nicely. I won't go to a random stranger in a bar in a restaurant saying, "Hey, how are you?" I won't do that. But
Right.
if someone comes and talks to me, I'll talk to them nicely. Like in
Right.
a flight journey also. When
Mm.
you're traveling about 18 hours in a flight to US,
Yeah.
invariably there will be some conversation that will start with a person sitting next to you. But I don't
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
that. Unfortunately, I don't start that. But if that person starts, I'll play along. Like I'll
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's no, I don't feel anything negative or anything. I don't know how to put it, but I'll be happy to travel. That's the kind of
Yeah.
mindset. Number one, yeah, I'll not be happy only if the number of tickets sold was less. That's a
Mm.
only thing where I won't be happy. But other than that, I'll be very happy. See, 2019, I traveled to 8 countries
Right.
only that year, and of that, Hong Kong first time, and Bahrain was first time, but I was
Nice.
excited
Nice. Yeah.
because I had my friend in Hong Kong, and we started out a lot of plans, seeing Disney World, this, that, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I went with family also. Bahrain, I went alone. Bahrain
Yeah.
was first time I went there. So going to a place first time, I first thing first, I would like to see how the airport is.
Mm.
I love to see how a new country's airport is, and how the restroom in the airport is. Even if
Yeah.
I'm not having the urge to go to rest, still I'll go and check out the restroom and see how
Oh
good,
man,
how neatly they're managed.
don't talk about restrooms. I'll tell you a story. This is the most embarrassing thing besides my sketch show. I used this toilet, so I needed to really go. It was between flights, so I had a layover in Heathrow Airport. So I was coming from the US,
Okay.
coming back home,
Uh-huh.
and all the toilets were taken, right? And you know how it is when you eat airline food, you need to go. And the
Hmm.
only thing available was the stall with disability for wheelchair people. And
Mm.
of course, I didn't have a cane back then, so I didn't look like a person. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I technically am qualified to use it, but I didn't
Uh,
look like someone who's qualified to use it.
uh-huh.
And I, um, I think this is one of the times I can confidently say I destroyed. Okay, I
Oh,
destroyed so hard, and then I got up and I was so proud of myself, going, "Whew, okay, the next leg of this flight can be comfortably spent not worrying about toilet." And man, then I go to flush, and the flush is not working. Oh
oh,
man, I don't know what happened. It just jammed. And I was like, shit, what do I do? And then I
oh,
open the toilet and there's a guy in a wheelchair waiting to use it. And I'm like, oh shit.
oh.
I felt so bad, dude. I, I mean,
So what did you do? You put
nothing.
tissue papers on top of it,
I,
covered it, and came back.
I don't know, dude. I think it's so traumatic for both of us, that guy and me, that I think we've wiped that memory out of our head. Till then, I remember. Till post that, I don't.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
but it's
So I
pretty
still
fun.
remember, Rona, where in Bangalore we regularly do open mics. I don't
McDonald's
want to tell
always.
the name. No, no, not that, but one more place where the flesh won't work properly.
Right.
Whenever I go there, it will be something or the other, and it will be like so embarrassing. But then, yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. It's
understand
it's
that.
it's amazing. It's something that you mentioned, right? Like I hear this sometimes when people are like, oh, comedians, on stage you guys are so funny, off stage you guys are depressed and unhappy. And I don't know if there's one particular, or two particular or three particular traits that define a comedian, or can sort of go into the ingredients to become a comedian. But looking at you, and I mean the people I call friends in comedy, I don't see that anti sort of that recluse in them, because I see some people pretending to be recluse. They're like, oh man, I just like being a loner, and it's all an act, right? But I noticed that what you just said, I love people, like I love talk. My wife Nivi is like, can you shut up? Sometimes you talk too much, and I do that. And do you think it's important for people who are right now listening and who might be aspiring comedians to be more people, like people's, I don't know the word, to be more social, to be more outward with people, to be friendly? Or do you have to be this person who kind of internalizes everything, who's a loner? So what has your experiences taught you?
So basically, you cannot change your personality. So if you
Mm.
like to talk, you talk.
Yeah,
If you don't, you don't. But if you are doing stand up, better to talk because you get material,
yeah,
right? You get material with so many different kind of people around you. Once you talk, they will only give you material.
yeah,
But if
absolutely.
you are a comedian, if you want material, talk to people, go out and talk. But even if you are still feeling shy to talk, at least have the power of overhearing what people
Right.
talk, at least behind
Yeah.
your seat, flight or in the movie theater, or
Yeah,
train or bus. Once you start overhearing people, no, they'll
yeah,
give you tons and tons of material. So if you're a
yeah.
comedian, if you can talk,
Listen,
that's
yeah,
nothing like that. If
yeah.
not, just overhear.
No, the eavesdropping is such a big thing, man. People ask me, how do you make these observational jokes? And I can't see the things that you see and you make fun of. But eavesdropping or overhearing is such a big thing, because in its way, that's itself a sense of observation, right? You're observing how people interact, how people behave. And
Hmm.
that for me was a big blow in the lockdown, because I couldn't meet people. I couldn't overhear things that happened in society, things that people would say, things that people would talk about that upset them or that would excite them. Like, what did you do for material during the lockdown, and which you're going to put in this show? Like, is it stuff from the past, or did you intentionally and consciously go out to observe things?
No, my mantra is live your life. Material will happen. For
Mm,
example, I made the decision of moving from Bangalore to Chennai because I started performing in Tamil.
yeah,
That itself is a material because
right,
I moved in huge corona breakdown was happening in 2020
right.
June when there was a lockdown. There was a gap of just 4 days relaxation.
You moved between the lockdown and this thing, right? I mean, you moved between lockdowns, right?
Yeah, but 4 days gap between May 31st and June 4th. There was a gap last
That's
year,
crazy.
2020, and I
And
moved on
Chennai
June
was in
2nd.
bad shape, right? Chennai was even more strict than Bangalore at that point.
Chennai had more cases than in Bangalore that time,
Yeah, yeah,
and we didn't get people to take things from the tempo or from the truck to the house. So we had to
oh,
hire our own people.
right.
My father-in-law's office people, he sent five of them. So
Hmm.
those people carried. and my apartment were very very strict. They were like, you should wear gloves, you should disinfect them. If they wear gloves, the items are slipping from their hand.
Right.
So they had to wear this winter gloves in
Oh,
Chennai,
wow.
June.
Dude, that itself is, it's just irony, right? You see these
Exactly.
guys wearing, I mean, that's something which is a kind of a joke associated with Chennai, right? Like people in Chennai come to Bangalore in summer, they wear a monkey cap. So
Kika,
this is
exactly.
actually hilarious that they actually had to wear gloves.
That woolen gloves they had to wear to carry stuff because that normal gloves were not working.
Okay.
So the apartment secretary was very, very strict in the sense, first of all, he didn't allow us to move,
Right.
but I had to vacate from Bangalore. So a lot of things were happening, and ultimately got permission. We had to disinfect the entire floor, the entire lift and the entire house before we moved in, before we brought the items in. So tons and tons of materials. See, getting a broadband connection was difficult that time. Getting
Mm.
the telephone connection, then getting the TV installed, everything was taking time. Nothing was going because nobody was working at full strength that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that itself is a huge material. So I can write one show because there's so many incidents that happen. So
Right.
basically, live your life.
So do you
Don't think
document
about anything.
these, or do you, it just comes back to you?
If I start thinking about it, it will come back. I just have to add masala to it. Add truth
Okay.
as a crux and then put masala around it and make it funny. But basically,
Nice.
live your life. Definitely. See, only thing is you have to notice things with a comic eye. You're
Mm.
stuck in a traffic jam.
Yeah.
If you are just closing your eyes and relaxing, nothing will happen. Observe, see around what is happening.
Mm.
See the next car, what is happening. There will be a fight. See the see the beggar who is making the kind of act he does. So many
Yeah.
people around us during a traffic jam. When
Do
you
you do
go in a
what if
flight, people.
sometimes, besides just observing, like, okay, there's a guy selling balloons to a guy on a bike. Nothing happens, but do you take that saying, okay, now maybe the balloon bursts, maybe the bike guy falls? Do you do that, some of that in
Oh
your stand
no,
up?
no, not that.
Okay.
Not that.
Okay.
I started moving towards storytelling now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So earlier I write the crux like a typical comedy Bible thing from Judy Carter.
Right.
I write a premise and I write all the questions why, who, when, and all that, and then what
Hmm.
ifs. So many things to come up with a joke. Now I moved slowly to I'm more comfortable telling a story that happened in my life
Yeah.
because that has actually happened. I don't have
Right.
to hunt for premises.
Hmm.
Like that has
Yeah.
actually happened. All I have to do is put it in a presentable format, make it little more funny, and put some masala around it to make it sound natural, relatable, and
Nice.
present it. So that's
No, I
what
think that's a
my
very important point to
which I'm
live your life.
currently exactly the current show which I'm touring with is entirely about my marriage. Whatever happened during my wedding,
The
that
ceremony,
24
the
hours,
actual ceremony.
yeah,
Right.
not bachelor ceremony. Before till the time I entered the marriage hall, till that time I tied the mangal sutra. So
Oh, that's what I mean. Just that particular window
formalities.
of
Uh,
the wedding, pre-wedding until the ceremony, right?
Exactly. So the
Right.
reception happened the previous day, the till the next day, Mangal Sutra. So whatever happened in my wedding,
Hmm.
that is whatever happened in 24 hours, I did a show. So
Hmm.
basically, I'm comfortable telling a story what happened.
Right.
So that audience also started liking that format from me. So that is the balance which I'm trying to do.
That's really, I mean, that's giving me, I think, nice insight into how you approach it, even though I know you so well. So, um, what is your outlook on this going forward? What's number one next for you? And what do you see happening with the worlds of online and the world of live and all these things coming together? Because a lot of the things between you as a comedy um, circuit has changed. Like the one club we used to all love going to, the comedy store, which became the Laugh Factory or the Canvas Laugh Club, closed down. Then the clubs or so-called comedy venues in Bangalore are reeling now because the bars that they are in are reeling from the lack of business. So, what do you have project? What do you project, and what do you kind of hope for in the comedy scene coming up?
Comedy scene, I hope we don't have to do online shows anymore. That is a little
Yeah,
painful. That's the only hope. But
yeah.
live shows are slowly starting, and I hope we get to do shows like how we were doing 2019 or before that.
Hmm.
And it was going to take time because right now we started with 40, 50 seaters now. Slowly
Yeah,
it has to move to 200 seaters, then 1000 seaters and all that. So it's going to
right.
take a lot of time, but if we are moving in that direction before third wave comes, or
Mm.
the third wave shouldn't come, hopefully,
Yeah,
and I think it's going to
hopefully.
grow because during lockdown, so many things have changed.
Right.
In the sense, a lot of things have changed. People started watching so many things sitting at
Mm.
home. They started watching stand-up specials. They
Yeah.
started watching other comedy shows around it. So now they know more comedians. Lot of
Mm.
comedians they know. Plus, they were sitting at home.
Right.
So, number one, they know the comedian, and they have to go out once the world becomes normal.
Yeah.
So both of them should work in our favor is my hope. So
Yeah.
if they know me, my previous special, Mr. Family Man, got released in Prime Video last May. That
Right.
is during peak lockdown. So
Okay.
because a lot of people watched it because they're sitting at home. Now they know me. Now if
Mm.
I put out a show properly after the world becomes normal,
Yeah.
and if they want to go out, they should be able to relate. Okay, I've seen him in Mr. Family Man. Let me go watch it live.
Excellent.
So that is
Excellent.
the hope. That is the expectation I have now once the world opens up.
Man, that's amazing. And I think this conversation for me has been eye opening, even though, as I said, we speak so often and I know you so well. Thanks for sharing everything that you have about your life and your perspective and what got you here. So, if I don't, I usually don't leave a message for the listener, but if you would have to say a thing, a point or two to someone listening right now who's wants to get into stand up or is a stand up struggling or a stand up who's got confused ideas on what it involves, what would you say to them?
Okay, perspective of stand up. Number one is be yourself.
Hmm.
Always be yourself. Don't try to imitate others. It's not going to work. Even if it works for one or two shows, it won't work in the long run.
Hmm.
Number two is don't expect anything for first few years.
Hmm.
Money, fame, nothing. Just keep working, keep attending open mics as much as possible. That's the only way to improve. No other. Don't take anybody's guidance. Don't take anybody's mentorship. Learn, fail, learn, record your set, listen to it,
Hmm.
understand where you went wrong, get better. Always compare yourself with yourself. You should have performed at least 2% better than your previous time every time
Right.
you perform. So
Hmm.
that the kind of scale you should have for yourself. And uh, and if you are not, even after so many years of doing stand up, and if you're not getting enough recognition or fame, don't lose hope.
Hmm.
Definitely there will be something. If you lose hope, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So don't lose hope. Continue doing what you're doing. You know, if you know you are good at it, definitely you'll get reward. Some people videos will get viral in the first video itself. Some people
Yeah.
will get their video viral on 20th video. Some people on 100th video, but it will go viral irrespective of how the video or how you are working hard. So
Hmm.
basically, all you have to do is work hard, continue working hard, and there will be reward if you are at it.
Yeah. I think one more point I'll add to that is don't expect exponential growth and don't feel entitled that you deserve it.
Don't feel entitled is a very, 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 very important part. Don't have ego. For example, if
Yeah.
you are doing it for 10 years, okay.
Yeah.
Yesterday I heard a story which I'll tell you offline. But
Okay. I think this is
uh,
a great story, guys. Don't you wish you knew Praveen Kumar?
so basically, if you're
Man,
doing
this
it for
we
10,
bitch
15
like
years,
housewives sometimes. Like what is it? Those fisher women, right? There's people sitting by the river talking. And Praveen and I sometimes, and Nivi's like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Praveen." She's like, "You sound like two old women catching up about some story that happened at a wedding where someone." And that's exactly what we sound like.
so
Like
exactly.
literally, I'm like, "Tell me the story."
Yesterday only I heard that. I'll tell you.
Tell
But
me, tell me.
if you're doing it for 10 years or so, and if you are put in the lineup with new comedian, don't have any ego. Just perform,
I think that's
perform.
so
That
important.
Sanjay has taught us that.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from that from Sanjay. Sanjay is like, don't have ego. So if somebody who's junior to you, much junior to you, is closing
yeah,
the show, if you're open, still it's okay.
correct.
Your job is to go and perform and come. You should keep your audience happy, whether you are performing for 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. If you're
Do
performing,
that
you're
well.
opening,
Yeah,
you're closing, anything for that matter.
correct.
Do your bit to the audience. They have to enjoy a bit. Don't have any other ego around. That's a huge message that I should tell the comics.
Yeah, I mean something we've all done, so we've learned the hard way. And
Yes,
again,
exactly.
one of those nuggets of wisdom from Sanjay, which um, he didn't follow. But no, man, I think we need to get him on a three-way episode once.
Fun. That will be fun.
It'll be really good fun. But Praveen, if they want to follow you, I'm sure a lot of people already follow you. But if they want to find your work online, can you just drop your handles? I'll put it in the description as well.
Yeah, it's at the rate comedian Praveen in Instagram
Hmm.
and comedy underscore Praveen in Twitter.
And Twitter, okay.
Comedian Praveen Kumar in Facebook.
Lovely. And your specials are on YouTube. You, as you mentioned, it's on Amazon Prime. That's the most recent one. But you are putting out stuff regularly from your YouTube channel, which is also your name, right? Comedian Praveen Kumar.
Praveen Kumar. Yes.
Excellent. Guys, go ahead, follow Praveen. He's a gem of a human being and he's a great friend. And I'm, extremely proud and lucky to consider you one of my closest friends. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming on the episode.
Thank you very much for having me in your episode. It was fun. It was like not like an episode. It was like usually talk on the phone. Here we're doing a Zoom call. That's the like.
Yeah. I tend to talk too much, so I apologize.
Imagine if you had added Sanjay into this.
Oh, good
Even
Lord.
you wouldn't have got a chance to speak.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. It's just been a three-way roast. But once again, Praveen, thank you. And I hope to see you soon, meet you soon, and catch up in person.
Yes, sure. Same here, sir. All the best for your podcast.
Thank you.